Well, thank you, Soren, for setting this up. And thank you, everyone, for attending or joining us. It's, uh, it's an important time just to come together. We don't know the real results of the election yet. I'm assuming most of those who are watching are in the US, but others may be watching from other parts of the world who also share some of the same concerns. And it's a little bit like we're in the hospital, in the waiting room, and the country is undergoing some kind of surgery, and we want to find out how the patient will be. And you can't do anything. You can't go in there and, watch or talk to the doctors, in this case, to the poll workers and the people counting. So, how do we hold this? And I'll talk about how I hold it, and we'll do some meditation and practices together because it's a very important time. And I want to read a story to you. Somehow it came to me to read this story first as a way to start, because I've been helping organize voting, as many people have. And this is the story. It goes like this. Tell me the weight of a snowflake, a snow sparrow asked a wild dove. Nothing more than nothing was the answer. In that case, I must tell you a marvelous story, the snow sparrow said. I sat on a branch of a fir tree, close to its trunk, when it began to snow. Not heavily, not in a giant blizzard, no, just like in a dream, without any violence. Since I didn't have anything better to do, I counted the snowflakes settling on the twigs and the needles of my branch. Their number was exactly 3,741,952. When the next snowflake dropped onto the branch, nothing more than nothing, as you say, the branch broke off. And having said that, the snow sparrow flew away, and the dove, since Noah's time an authority on change, thought about the story for a while and finally said to herself, perhaps there's only one person's voice lacking for peace to come about in this world. And I read this story because we're counting like snowflakes, millions and billions of votes. And as far as I can tell, it's not going to be a landslide one way or another. It represents the divided states of America in different ways. But we don't want to let the outer suffering and the outer angst and the outer conflict take over the heart. As my dear friend Mahagosananda, who was the Gandhi of Cambodia, nominated for the Nobel Prize many times, speaking to Congress about passing laws and joining treaties to end landmines around the world. He said the most important thing to the whole US Congress is not those landmines, but the landmines in the heart. And so in this time of not knowing, and the truth is not knowing is our state as human beings, it's so mysterious, and we're in a time of great turning and great mystery. One of the best and most useful things we can do is take some deep breaths and remember that we're part of something so much bigger than this election. I was just out in the desert in southern Utah by Bryce and Zion and these great national parks, and at night where the air was clear and you could see the sky filled with stars. And then as I got dark adapted and looked further, all the stars and constellations I knew were then populated in the matrix of thousands and thousands of tiny points of lights of stars. And we know our own galaxy has 200 billion stars, and there are something like 200 billion to 1 trillion galaxies. And these seasons are turning, and empires rise and fall. And we're part of that mystery. We breathe with the atmosphere of the earth and with everyone else together, all the same air. exchanging our breaths, living organism of the sphere. And I think of visiting my teacher Ajahn Chah when the war was going on not far from the monastery. And he would sit with so much compassion and look and say, find your way to make your heart the zone of peace. If you want peace in the world, begin with peace in your own heart. And we would watch the turning of the seasons and the phases of the moon. And we human beings have been through this. We've been through pandemics and earthquakes, typhoons and floods. We've also been through injustice and terrible racism and the mistreatment of so many people and dictators and so forth. But they're not the end of the story. There's something bigger that's going on that we're all a part of. And this is Mahatma Gandhi, who says, when I despair. And you think of Gandhi as such an extraordinary being, and then he says, I despaired too. When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love has always won. Yes, there have been murderers and tyrants, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Think of it, always. So here we are in this remarkable, mysterious moment of the election and the turning of the next page of humanity. And we take our seat halfway between heaven and earth and let our heart cool down to become a place of peace amidst the joys and sorrows and hopes and fears and all the duality that make up life. I'd like us to do a meditation before I say anything more. Just a way to ground ourselves, to find that the phrase in the language of Laos and Thailand that Ajahn Chah spoke was Jai Yen. Jai means heart, and Yen means cool, a cool heart, a spacious and vast heart. To find this in ourselves as we wait, as we listen, as we sense that we're part of something so much bigger. Like the Ojibwe say, sometimes I go about pitying myself when all the while I'm being carried by great winds across the sky. We are being carried by huge forces, those from the human hearts and those forces way beyond the human hearts that turn the spheres of the universe. So find a way to sit that's stable and comfortable. Let your feet be flat on the floor if you're on a chair or a cushion or a bench, some way in which you feel that you can rest your body on the earth in the midst of the turning seasons and the Tao, the joys and sorrows and gain and loss, and pleasure and pain, and beginnings and endings, the ever-turning phases of the moon and the sun and of our own breath. And let your eyes close gently for a time now. And take 2 or 3 deep breaths, just to let yourself release what you can easily. And now as you sit, feel the weight of gravity in your body being pulled to the earth, back home to this earth from which your body arose. And let yourself feel or imagine that you have roots that go deep down into the earth, that you're like a great tree. And the winds of change, of elections and politics and all the other kinds of changes, the economic winds and the changes in the society around, they come and they blow through the leaves of the tree, and you are steady and your roots go deep into the earth, timeless, steady. Feel from your body that you're connected to the earth. And you can let the winds come and go as they will. And now to deepen the sense of presence, of mindful, loving awareness, become aware of the whole field of your body. And how much your body carries. The places of tension and tightness that contract when there's fear or struggle. The places of ease, whatever's warm or cool, tight or relaxed, soft or hard. Let it just be. You become the loving awareness that witnesses this body and all it carries with kind attention. And feel how the body breathes itself, the heart beats of its own. All the fluids and organs and workings of the body mysteriously move in synchrony and keep you alive. As you feel your body with this loving awareness and kindness, say thank you to your body. Thank you for carrying so much. Thank you for caring for me. I'm okay just now. You can relax. I'm okay. And feel your body relax as you invite it to. Let your body rest with the turning of the seasons and the movement of the stars. In a time far greater than the day or the news cycle or the election itself. You are part of something vast. Now bring your attention to the area of your heart and to all that your heart carries, the worries and fears, the longings and love, the anger or grief and pain you carry, as we all do. The hope and the joy, the spirit within you. The heart carries so much. And you feel this heart, surrounding it with loving awareness and kindness or compassion. And say thank you. Thank you for carrying so much. Thank you to this great heart. I'm okay just now. You can relax. And let your heart cool down and be at ease. Soften. And hold the ocean of tears and the unbearable beauty with a stillness and an openness that allows for all these to come and go, and you become more quiet. I'm okay just now. Now bring the same mindful, loving awareness to your mind. Oh yes, that busy mind, planning and imagining, worrying and remembering and trying to figure things out, and running in circles and repeating again and again, trying to figure it out and get it right, trying to understand and think of and work with things and envision and feel the whole energy of the mind. Wow. There it is. Active. And you become the loving awareness, the mindful loving awareness that witnesses the mind. And all its energies. You feel it. And then say to your mind, thank you. Thank you for working so hard for trying to protect me. I'm okay just now. You can relax. You can relax. And thank you to the mind, you can relax. You begin to notice that the spaciousness of awareness opens more fully. The mind quiets. The heart is softer. The body more at ease. And notice how you have quite naturally become the loving witness of your life. That you become the mindful, loving awareness that notices your body with kindness. That notices all the feelings and moods of the heart with the same kindness. That notices the play of the mind with gratitude and kindness. For who you are is awareness itself, loving awareness that was born into your body, consciousness. You're not the body or the emotions or the thoughts. You are the consciousness itself, vast as the sky, witnessing the body, the heart, and the mind from a place of openness and peace and stillness. I'm okay just now, you say to the mind and body and heart. And resting on this earth, now with a spacious and loving awareness, begin to radiate a sense of peace or well-being that you've begun to find in yourself. Spacious, still, steady, and send this coolness of heart, this ease, out in every direction. To all those who are upset, to all those who are struggling, to all those who are frightened. May your hearts be at peace. And let the sense of peace radiate from you. Peace and tenderness. A caring or compassion that holds all beings in every direction. Can say to the world, relax for a moment. Stand down. And with a tenderness and care, say, yes, we will do what we can to protect the vulnerable, to stand up for justice, to bring love into the world. And we will do it from a peaceful heart. We will become what the world can become. So I wonder how that meditation affected you. I'm hoping its different parts, the grounding into the earth being the great tree, the witnessing of body, heart, and mind allows you to become that loving awareness, spacious and easy. As it says in the Tao, there's a time for being ahead and a time for being behind, a time for being in motion and a time for rest, a time for winning and a time for losing, a time for being in danger and a time for being safe. The wise one sees things as they are without trying to control the world. She lets it rise and pass as it will and resides in harmony at the center of the circle. No matter how this election turns out, and I certainly have my deep wishes for it to turn out on the side of care and justice for immigrants, for vulnerable people, for the climate, and all of those sorts of things. That's my own concern for the world. I'm fundamentally hopeful. We know how to do this, however long it takes us. And I think about Margaret Mead, the great anthropologist, who was asked at one point, when did she find the first signs of human civilization? And Margaret Mead responded not the way people thought. They thought she might talk about arrowheads or spear tips or maybe cave paintings. And she said, no. She said, we once found an ancient hominid skeleton, early humans, with a broken thigh bone. She said, if an animal were to break its leg, it couldn't get water, it couldn't get food, it would become prey out in the wild and it would die. But this person whose leg was broken was obviously carried by others, given water, given food, nurtured and held until they could heal. She said, this is the sign of the beginning of civilization. It's a big cycle, and we go through some terrible times and painful times. And yet we also have the possibility in us of doing magnificent things. And they've been done again and again and again. So as you sit quietly, you don't want to go right back to your devices and do doom scrolling and thinking about all the terrible things. Let me explain. Here's what I've learned. In Zen, they say there are only two things. You sit and you sweep the garden. And it doesn't matter how big the garden is. That is, you quiet the mind and tend the heart. And your loving awareness becomes the sweet oil that eases the hinge into the inner garden so you can go there easily. Gandhi himself spent one day a week in silence, even when he was in the midst of dismantling the British Empire. And people would come to him and so much upset and say, Gandhiji, there are hundreds of thousands of people on the streets. People are demonstrating, they're rioting on both sides. People are being killed. You must come help. And he would look back and say, I'm sorry, today is Thursday. It's my quiet day. And he would take that one day a week in silence to sit, as you just did, to connect with the rhythms that are far beyond the political turmoil, to connect with the depths of his heart and the consciousness that was born into him and all of us. And listen for what was the most true and helpful and strategic thing he could do, no matter what was happening. And then he would go and plant seeds. This is how Thich Nhat Hanh speaks of it. He says the heart, the human heart, is like a piece of land planted with many different kinds of seeds. Seeds of joy, of peace, mindfulness, understanding, and love. And seeds of fear and anger, of craving and hate, and forgetfulness. These healthy and unhealthy seeds are always there as a part of consciousness, sleeping in the soil. The quality of your life and of our lives depends on the seeds you water. If you water a seed of peace in your heart, peace will grow. When the seeds of happiness in you are watered, you become happy. When the seed of anger in you is watered, you will become angry. The seeds that are watered frequently are those that will grow strong. So teach one another to tend the garden of the heart. This is the garden we've been given. So there you do it. You sit, you steady yourself, the cool heart. And then what do? You get up and you sweep the garden of the world. And I did my part, some little part, in trying to organize votes for people, meditation teachers and yoga teachers around the country, getting information so that they could activate the 20 million people who practice yoga and meditation to vote for the values of the heart. I did other things like you all have done in our way, but not out of fear, out of the sense that in fact, there's a great possibility. As the activist Molly Ivan says, keep on fighting for freedom and justice, beloveds, but don't forget to have fun doing it. Plant the beautiful seeds and love the garden. And let what Martin Luther King said, the fatigue of despair become the buoyancy of hope. Now, here's something important to say, maybe a couple of things as we go on. Anyone who sees clearly can recognize that there's no technological fix to the suffering we're experiencing. And yes, there is suffering. There's suffering in life. And right now in the political conflicts, there's suffering. And the suffering is caused by greed and hatred, fear and ignorance. And no amount of computers and internet and biotechnology and space technology and nanotechnology, none of that will stop continuing warfare. And conflict will stop the pain of racism and of economic injustice, will stop climate change, tribalism, because all these are rooted in the human heart. And our technology just amplifies who we are. So now it is time for us, for you and me and all of us, to match the remarkable outer developments of humanity, where I have the great Library of Alexandria in my smartphone, along with 20 million cat videos and all kinds of other things, to match the remarkable outer technology with the inner technology of the heart. And we have that technology. The trainings in compassion and loving kindness, the training in mindfulness and loving awareness, the trainings of wise livelihood, right speech. We know how to do this. And so then it becomes our job to go into the conflict of the world with a peaceful heart and to plant and water the seeds that matter, the seeds of goodness. William Thoreau said, I do not believe that a plant will grow where there's no seed, but convince me you have a seed there, and I'm prepared to expect miracles. And so whatever happens in this election, it will be a time to continue to water the seeds of goodness. And don't think they're not there. Even in this hour that we spend together, dear ones, there are a billion acts of kindness happening all around the globe just as we talk. Parents putting scrambled eggs or oatmeal or rice porridge or chapatis or whatever they happen to be, tortillas, on the plates of their children for the morning or the evening. Children going to school with teachers who care about them, doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, people in businesses who are serving one another, and they do it with so much generosity and care. The way people move through the streets, the way they line up for voting or going into the, line up to go to the restaurants now, fortunately, people beginning to wear more of the masks. We take care of each other. It's born into us. Because more and more in the pandemic and climate change are the great wake up. We're shifting from the fiction of separation to the reality of interdependence. The secret then is for you to act beautifully. You want to know the secret, you tuned in, you get the secret. and we need it today very much, to act beautifully without attachment to the fruits of the action. This from Thomas Merton, the great Christian mystic. He says, do not depend on the hope of results. He was talking to a frustrated and burned out activist who didn't get the results he wanted right away. He said, you may have to face the fact that your work will apparently be worthless at times and achieve no result at all, if not perhaps bringing about results that are opposite from what you expect. As you get used to this idea, you start more and more to concentrate not on the results, but on the value, the rightness, and the truth of the work itself. And so this is the secret, that what you get to do after you quiet the mind and tend the heart, you sit, and then you sweep the garden of the world, you tend the garden of the world. And you plant seeds, and you may see them bear fruit, but maybe you plant sequoias, and it's 2,000 years until a sequoia blooms into its great magnificence. And you know generations ahead will be able to sit under that. There's so many things that we can do as human beings, beautiful things that we can do. Don't let yourself lose sight of those in the flurry and the madness of the election. Yes, we will see who won. Whoever won, there still will be suffering, but it's not the end of the story. The Buddhist truths are that there's suffering, there are the causes, greed, hatred, ignorance, prejudice, fear. And there's an end to suffering in our hearts and with one another. Generosity, love, wisdom, clarity. These are the qualities that grow. This is the path of awakening, of a liberated heart. It was born in you. You know this from the day you were born. You can live this and embody it. Fear is the cheapest room in the house, says the poet Hafez. I'd like to see you in better living conditions. And so the primitive brain goes tribal, who's us, who's not, who's in, who's out. Where will I be safe? Where will I be caught by someone else in some way, taken advantage of? And it's easily triggered by politicians and by the world of politics. It's not the reality. The reality is so much bigger, a dance of joy and sorrow and birth and death and coming together and falling apart of all of the changing world, breathing. And the reality is that who we are is consciousness itself and love. When a baby is born, the first gesture is to hold this new human being with so much love and tenderness. At the end of life, when we sit with someone and hold their hand as they leave and die, that last gesture is a gesture of love. And in between birth and death, who do you think we are? We are that love. That's what matters. That is your true nature. So when you get quiet, then you can begin to listen. You can listen to your heart and ask for your very best intention. What is my true intention in this world? Yes, there will be praise and blame and gain and loss and violence and peace and birth and death. What do I carry in my heart? You can reflect. It's like a vow one might take, a setting of the compass of the heart. I vow to be kind, no matter what happens. But I love the poem in a much more beautiful articulation from friend Diane Ackerman, who writes her heart's intention. She says, in the name of daybreak and the eyelids of morning and the wayfaring moon and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, a healer of misery, a messenger of wonder, and an architect of peace. Let yourself be still. Listen to your own heart's deep intention. And as we did at the end of that meditation, send out your blessings, send out the waves of a cool heart to cool the hearts of everyone in this world on every side. Thank you all for sitting with me, for letting me give voice, because it helps me too. I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to you know who else needs this in this time. Thank you for joining hands and joining hearts together in this. And thank you to Soren for making this possible. Don't go turn the news on right away. Take a breath, steady yourself. Go and look at the stars or the darkness of the night that's fallen or the sun that's about to rise in another part of the world if you're there. Make a cup of tea. Do something tender for someone that you live with. Install yourself in the goodness of the world. And then with a sense of vastness and ease, let yourself look. But don't be too attached, because it's just not the end of the story. Whatever happens, we're in a great dance. Mary Oliver writes, for years and years, I struggled just to love my life. And then the butterfly rose weightless in the wind. Don't love your life too much, she said, and vanished into the world. Hold it all lightly, my dear friends. Hold it with love and tenderness and a vastness and a steadiness. Plant beautiful seeds and water them. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Jack. So everyone can now unmute themselves. And if you go to gallery view, we can say our goodbyes and blessings and thanks and anything else that wants to come from your heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack and Soren,
Thank you
and
so
all
much.
of you.
Thank you so much.
Very much, everyone.
Soren, thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Amazing
Thank you,
and so
Soren.
much.
Everyone, God
Thank
bless you.
you. Stay
so
safe,
much.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack.
Obrigada, Soren. Obrigada,
Jack.
Was just what my heart needed. Thank you so,
Thank you,
so
Jack.
so
much.
much.
Thank you, Soren.
Blessings to
Wisdom
everyone.
community.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Jack,
Strong.
you.
Exactly what
Wonderful
we
evening.
blessings, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Wow, blessed evening.
Word be
Jack,
happy.
obrigada, Jack.
Thank you.
Obrigada.
Obrigado.
Obrigada.
Obrigado.
Don't give up.
Obrigado, obrigado.
Obrigado.
Tchau, tchau.
Obrigado.
Thank you.
Muito
Bye.
obrigado.
Thank you, Julie.
Peace and blessings.
Happy fun, everyone.
Obrigada.
Life is
Bye.
a journey, not
so
a
good to see you.
destination.
Obrigada.
Muchas gracias, Jack.
Hi, Macy.
Great.
Peace and love. Thank you.
Obrigada.
Yay.
Annie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
right.
Appreciate it, Soren. Nice to see
In New
you.
York City. Hi, Beth.
Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Hey,
Bye, Marcia.
And all these people.
Christina. Vic.
Bye, Annie.
We already won the
Bye,
election.
Francis.
Voted for kindness.
Hi, Jim Stanger. Hi, Beth. Mwah. Thinking of
Joe.
you. I love you.
Yes,
we already
won. We're just seeing everybody again.
Much
Lauren, thank you so much for that. That was
I
just
mean,
what we
that was
needed.
lovely.
Big up, Beth.
Thank you, Soren.
Obrigada.
Thank you, Soren.
Peg, so lovely to be with you in meditation, Peg.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Gato.
Obrigada. Obrigada. Obrigada.
Obrigada.
Yes, I know.
Coração.
Done.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So,
Thank
Thank you, Soren.
Soren.
Francis, many blessings, Francis.
Obrigada.